Welcome to my daily live session on various topics for execution excellence. My name is Dinakar. I'm the founder of Samutana and the inventor of DuHow, a methodology for achieving amazing outcomes, challenging goals by, first of all, getting your teams aligned, and after that, getting them to work on the basics. The fundamental principle is going back to basics so that their personal, professional, and people competencies get developed as they achieve the amazing outcome or the challenging goal. And in doing so, we have been able to deliver both the benefit on the top line as well as the bottom line. And at the same time, I have developed it so that we could deliver the programs face to face, virtually on the web, or as a platform as a service. So with that very brief introduction, let me directly request you to check out my website, which is dinakarmurthy.com, in case you want to know more details, or you can always write an email to me. My email is dinakar@samutana.com. So with that very brief introduction, let me directly jump into the topic of the day, which is the stakeholder map. And before that, sorry for getting delayed. I was working on a kind of an analysis of a WhatsApp group. I will share that in one of these days. I'll make a video, in terms of what's happening in a WhatsApp group. I did some amount of data analysis there. I like doing that, and I'll share that one of these days. Therefore, I got delayed a little. Sorry for that. So I spoke on Monday about the stakeholder map, a brief introduction to the stakeholder map, and yesterday I spoke about the. Okay, there is some problem with LinkedIn, is what it says. So yesterday I spoke about the brief application of a stakeholder map. One was in understanding the current reality, so that we really identify who the stakeholders are. So for us to understand the current reality from them, and the next was in the area of giving them some kind of reports, updating what the status is, so that they are convinced and they are confident that the company can deliver sustained value creation. So that's basically the recap which I did just now of the 2 days, Monday and Tuesday. And today I'll be talking about the negatives. Of course, stakeholder map looks very nice. It appeals to everybody. It's interesting. Somebody would like to do it as a regular practice, annual practice, for example. But there are some negatives also. Let's look at that. The first one is, uh, see, when we do such a stakeholder map, generally what is done, you really get the key players, and then along with them start trying to understand the business, and then start mapping them. Start writing down who the stakeholders are. So there is a very funny thing that many a times when we do that, I said that you need to do name wise. It's not about simply telling that, look, I need everybody, and finance is one stakeholder, customers are the stakeholder. It's a very, very vague statement. Or I say that customers in Karnataka are the stakeholder. Again, a vague statement, doesn't really help. Customers in Bangalore are the stakeholder. Again, doesn't really help. Customers in Baswangudi are the stakeholder. Doesn't really help. I would like to know that customer Ramesh, who is from company ABC, located in Jayanagar, in Bangalore, in Karnataka, in India, is the stakeholder. That kind of a granularity is required to really understand the expectations and needs. So therefore, when we are doing that, there is a high risk that the stakeholders can get mixed up. Some of them can get missed. So how do you go about ensuring that? First, I'll talk about all the negatives, and after that, talk about the mitigation measures. The next one is the process sometimes may seem very academic, because you're trying to just identify things which already there's no big rocket science in that, is what somebody may think, but it is necessary. I'll talk about that. That is the second negative. It may seem a little academic. And the next next negative would be to talk about the diversity which is required for thoroughness. That's again very important, and that's a kind of a mitigation measure for the point number one. If you have got diverse people present in the stakeholder mapping workshop, then the probability of missing out somebody is very, very low. If it is done by one or two people, then the risk is very high. And if you do that and you base your entire strategy and executions on that, then you have a huge problem in terms of, just one second, there is a problem here. LinkedIn has a problem, so I need to remove it. So those of you who are in LinkedIn, you will not be able to watch me today because there's some problem. I don't know what the issue is. It says you can't live stream, whereas Facebook and YouTube are working. So that was the interruption in the in between. So sorry for that. So if you need the diverse scope players for thoroughness is something which is a must, because then the point number one, which was missing out on important stakeholders, will get mitigated. So that's again another negative, because you need to get a diversity. That means you need to get people from various departments or various functions into your stakeholder mapping. That is the next one. And the final con is that it is just the first step. It is not that by doing stakeholder mapping something will be achieved. It's just the first step to get the clarity as to whom to ask. It's not anything where you can get a top line increase or a bottom line increase. It's just a first step to understanding whom to ask, so that you can build a strategy, build a company that is going to be world class or ever flourishing or continuously improving with sustainable profitable growth, as I spoke day before yesterday. So that's something which is important to talk about these four negatives. So let me now talk about the mitigation measures. First is missing out on most important stakeholders or important stakeholders. For that, the mitigation is to ensure that the team is diverse. That's again the third negative which I have listed out. So let me first address that mitigation for that. See, to ensure that there is a diversity amongst the team which is doing the workshop, my recommendation is to ensure that there is somebody other than your company consulted when you do the stakeholder mapping, because stakeholder mapping is something which I'm sure many experts outside your organizations would be knowing. So you can consult one of those people and maybe get them to moderate the stakeholder mapping workshop. It may take about maximum 2 to 3 hours. The worst situation would be half a day. So there it is important that you try to get the external help. Instead of doing it internally, get somebody who's an external expert to do that, because this is the foundation of planning your strategy in a business. So therefore, it's important that to get it right and not to miss out on the most important things, and to ensure that there is a diversity in the group. And how does this get addressed? Because when you are getting an external expert to do this, the external expert would talk about the various backgrounds of people which are required to ensure robustness in the stakeholder mapping, and that's something which is going to give you the what should I say, robustness and the guarantee that there is a good diversity in the team that is doing the diversity, the stakeholder mapping. So the mitigation for that would be to involve an external expert for doing the stakeholder mapping or moderating the stakeholder mapping. Then the process may seem very academic. Of course, it is. It seems academic because you are trying to really look at and visualize people who are there. So here the mitigation measure would be to really go through the various information available. It's available on the net. You can write stakeholder mapping on the internet. You can read through all the information and find out what the benefits are and what would be the way to do it, what are the benefit. If you do that, then it becomes easy to understand. Or you could also download the basic principles of any excellence model, understand what is the relevance of the stakeholder in the entire business excellence model. That also could give you the idea as to why it is to be done, even though it sounds or seems to be academic. And the last one is just the first step. So that's something which is very, very important. See, as the stakeholder mapping is the first step, it is important to list out what happens next after the stakeholder mapping is done. And that needs to be done voluntarily, preferably, because that's where the external moderator, which I was talking about, external facilitator, which I am talking about, will come in the play to ensure that the people in the group take actions on their own, take the buy-in and then take the ownership for the next steps. Next steps, for example, could be that first when it is done, the next step could be to detail out and confirm that the expectations and validations, whatever expectations and needs that we have listed out, is to be validated. So how can that be done? You have not got the name. I said it is Ramesh from Jayanagar in Bangalore, in Karnataka. In India is the stakeholder, is a customer of ours, and from company ABC. So what you do is you call up Ramesh and ask him, like, this is what we have understood your needs and expectations are they correct? And that validation is the first step which has to be done. Now, once that is done, then we have understood the needs and expectations of Ramesh, and based on that, it is important to consolidate. That means there is Ramesh, there is possibly Ram and Sham, and you have got Sita, Geeta. So all these are all various customer stakeholders. Then you got the sales stakeholders, marketing stakeholders, then retail customers, B2B customers. Various groups could be there. And for each of these groups, try to group them and try to then find out commonalities, to really look at patterns. What is it that they're looking for? And from there, derive what you call as the characteristics which you can use in the company. And for that, you can use a system similar to QFD. I don't know if anybody of you have heard of QFD. QFD is called as quality function deployment. Something similar to that can be used for deriving the organizational KPIs, which would give you the meet the required expectations of the stakeholders. And once that is done, then you create a strategy, create a plan to achieve those organizational KPI. That's the magic. So thanks a lot for watching. For those of you in India, have a nice evening. For those of you outside India, have a great day ahead, and see you tomorrow, more or less at the same time, on the topic of what are the pros and positives of stakeholder mapping. Thanks a lot, and goodbye.